Hello everyone, this is Duke with a video regarding the Lite config tool or configuration tool, how to use it a little bit and give you kind of a starter on this. You may have a different configuration for your plane, but stock, pretty much all of them should be the same, and then we might adjust things as you do modifications in class. So I'm going to try to switch back and forth here a little bit. We should have our dot cam, and this is about as wide as I can go, so this is the tricky part, is trying to have it in frame here so we can see part of the plane and what it's doing, as well as the Lite up here. Now mine is just stuck on the top of the plane so everyone can see it easier, but of course when you install your Lite into your plane, you're going to want to put it inside the plane. Okay, as close to the center of gravity as possible is best, but you can also kind of just stick it right in front of this little cutout hole that's in there. Okay, it would sit right there. If you get it farther back, that's better, but then it's harder to access to plug things in, so kind of up to you. Just closer to the center of gravity is the best for these flight controllers. Okay, so we can see here I don't have my wings on this plane. Okay, so I have instead I have a set of servos are going to kind of simulate the wings here, the ailerons. So I'm going to have all my surfaces plugged in here. I have my Y harness. So each of you got one of these with your plane, and the Y harness is to allow you to have one plug into the receiver or the Lite, and then go to two plugs for your ailerons, because ailerons move in opposite directions. So this just kind of splits the signal up. So one moves up, the other moves down. Okay. Then I have my other parts of my plane plugged into the Lite here, and I'll talk about how that works in a second. But basically, I have all my control surfaces plugged in as well as my throttle. So it goes aileron. Let's see, actually. Sorry. Just a second here. Okay, so you have aileron, elevator, throttle, and rudder plugged in here. And so aileron is this one here on the left-hand side. Aileron, elevator, throttle. You can see that's a different color from the ESC. And then my rudder is the last one here plugged in. And so that'll be the order I'll use in the video. I would recommend you use that order as well, because it just is the kind of the standard order. AETR, aileron, elevator, throttle, rudder. And I'll show you why that matters in just a second in the config tool. But I have those things plugged in for my plane. My receiver is also plugged in. Okay, it's my Express LRS receiver. Whether you have Express LRS receiver or not, you need to have an S-Bus output. So if you're using the FlySky receivers, use the S-Bus output. I can help you with that. Express LRS, to get the S-Bus output out of your receiver, you need to watch the video I made regarding Express LRS setup. I believe it's titled Output Mapping. I'll put a link to it below this video or in any other class material you might need. But that one is specifically for reconfiguring your Express LRS receiver to output S-Bus instead of outputting individual channels 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we have to have that working for this control board to receive the signals from the receiver. So if you haven't done that yet, go ahead and pause, go to that output mapping video, do that, and then come back to this video. If you're using the FlySky transmitter receiver, go ahead and just ask me for help. I might have a, sorry, my recordings. Okay, I think we're good. I might have another video where you go to that one and see how to set that up with S-Bus. If I have that video, I'll also link it in the description as well, so you can watch that video and figure out the S-Bus output for your receiver to work with the Lite. But either way, you need an S-Bus receiver outputting S-Bus signal into the Lite before we go any further. Okay? All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab our USB cable. So the USB cable, it comes with an Lite. Here's one that's still wrapped up. You should have a USB cable in there. It's a micro USB to USB-A. So you need to have one of those to plug your Lite into the computer. So we'll grab one of those and plug it in real quick. All right, so let's grab this. This is kind of a longer cable I have here. Just need to get it unwrapped a little bit. So we'll plug in here to the USB port on the Lite. Okay. And I'll plug the other end into my computer. We see some little lights flashing there, a little blue. It's the Lite is booting up. Okay, and it goes into a solid orange. With your Lite in the pack, there's actually a little cheat sheet. I have some of these in class, but it gives you some little codes as far as like, oh, if the LEDs go in solid or if it's flashing, or what does that mean? Right now, a solid orange means it's booted up, but the receiver's not communicating with it. That's because the receiver is not currently powered. We have to give battery power to the Lite in order to power the receiver. Okay. We'll do that in a second. Let's switch over to the Aura config tool. So you have your Aura Lite plugged in, it's powered up and installed. Okay. I'm going to turn on this other view here, so hopefully you can see everything I'm doing on this page. On the Aura config tool that you should have installed on your Windows computer, you will need to go down to the bottom right hand corner and hit connect. Okay, it should give you a message like this: successfully connected to Aura Lite. Oh, it's not showing the messages. Oh man, hold on just a second. Sorry. I turn on the full display capture so I get everything. Okay, I'm gonna get the weird kind of windowed effect here, but we'll get through it. Now you should be able to see everything that's popping up on my window. Yep. Okay. So once you hit connect, you'll see a message like this. And we'll see it says connected to COM whatever. It might not be 31 for you. It might be a different COM number. That's fine. As long as it connects, you hit OK. Okay. And then down here at the bottom right, you'll hit read from Aura. So this is kind of like pull up all my settings from my Aura Lite currently. Okay. And it should say read from Aura complete. Good. And it's got a bunch of tabs up here to see all the different settings and stuff like that. Okay, good, that's working. Another thing we'll do is we'll turn on the live data over here in the upper right hand corner. Turn that on. That will allow us to see things live. So over here in the sensor monitor on the right hand side, okay, you'll see roll, pitch, and yaw. And if I move the Aura Lite around right now, I'm rolling it side to side. You see the red and blue kind of arrow things moving there. Okay, if I were to pitch it, we'd see the same kind of thing on pitch or yaw. All right, so that just lets us see what's happening live. It's really helpful for figuring out what's going on. Okay, let me get my mouse pointer. All right, sorry about that. I just want to turn my mouse pointer on so you can see a little bit easier. Okay, once we pull the Aura Lite tool back up. Come on, there we go. Oops, almost. Okay. I think my computer's getting a little bogged down here. Hopefully this works. So when you first plug in your Aura Lite, it won't say FT Explorer and stuff like mine does. I've already set this one up. But what you'll do to get things set up to start out with is you'll go up to File and hit New Aura Config File Wizard. Okay, it's going to pop up another window, which hopefully everyone can see. Okay, good. And this is just a new blank setup for your plane. So this is if you moved your Aura Lite from your Flight Test Explorer, you want to put in your Outlaw, you would make a different configuration file for your Outlaw compared to your FT Explorer, and you could load one and fly it and then switch the Aura Lite to a different plane and load a different configuration file. It's kind of like a preset for your plane. So what we'll do is we'll name this one here. Okay, we'll say FT Explorer. Okay, and we're going to go through these options. Airframe, we'll leave it as custom. Gains, flight test sport is fine. Analog's fine. Single throttle's fine. Okay, gyro kill switch. We can put that to on. Actually, sorry, leave that to off. My bad. Leave that to off. Okay. So basically, just change the name here. Leave all these other things right here default. The set of drop downs here. We will want to check this level assist button. Okay. And then we'll go down here to wing type, and we'll select one aileron. Okay, because we have one plug that has a Y harness, so we don't need two plugs for the ailerons. You could do two ailerons if you wanted to and have two individual plugs. Okay, but with the Y harness that I gave you guys in class, you just use the one aileron option, and we'll see why in a second. Okay, over here on transmitter type, you want to select FR Sky, even though you don't have an FR Sky transmitter. This seems to work well. FR Sky default TX model. We'll select receiver type as S.bus. Okay, and the Aura port will be port B. Okay, the channel order will not be TAER, it will be AETR, aileron, elevator, throttle, rudder. So go ahead and select that. Okay, digital output, leave that as none, and we'll select our tail type as one elevator and one rudder because that's what our FT Explorer has. Okay, so I went through that pretty quick, but hopefully those options are making sense as you look at your plane you're building and you're saying, okay, this has two ailerons, has an elevator, has a rudder. Okay, those ones hopefully make sense there. And then up here we have the transmitter type. That's basically to help the Aura Lite understand that we're sending in an S-bus signal. I know we don't have FR Sky transmitters, but the S-bus should work well. Okay, the channel order AETR is the order the channels are sent in. That should be the same whether you have an Express LRS or a FlySky transmitter. Here, the orientation change here, it basically just helps you know how to attach the Aura Lite in your plane. Okay, so right now it's saying, okay, all the servo plugs are in the back, the nose should be opposite that, and the right wing should be on this side of the Aura Lite. If you wanted to, for some reason, mount the Aura Lite on the side of the plane or on the upside down on the underside of the top of the plane, you can change the orientation by moving it around like this. So let's say you wanted to put it in the plane, this way. You can do that, but you have to tell the Auralite that so it knows which way is up and down and left and right and stuff like that. So I'm just mount mine in the default configuration so I don't actually change this, but if you need to move it around for some reason, that's how you can do it. Okay, so I'm going to hit cancel here. All right, so once we have that set up, okay, we're going to have our servo port configurations kind of appear. So you see before I had this set up, there's nothing here. Okay, there's nothing in the S1 through S5 ports. Once I finish setting up the model, one elevator, one rudder, it automatically populates these into what, different outputs. Okay. Unfortunately, the default still is not the same order as we're used to with our receivers. It puts throttle first. Okay. What this is saying is S1 is going to be throttle, S2 is aileron, S3 is elevator. If you're saying, where's the S stuff? Duke, what are you talking about? Let's turn this on real quick. There we go. Okay, so the S, see if you can see this here. The letters, you'll see these on your board a little bit easier probably than here, but you kind of see them on the bottom there. We have S1, S2, S3, S4, S5. Okay, and so we'll zoom back out a little bit here. And that's what that's referring to. Okay, so let's go back in here. Oops, not that one, this one. Okay, so what I would recommend is you change the order of these so that it follows the AETR convention. You don't have to, but I'm going to change them here so it goes aileron, elevator, throttle, and rudder. And then I'll leave channel 5 as just channel 5 gears, fine. Okay, that means when I plug the different items into the Auralite, they'll be in the same order, AETR, as they are if I would just plug them into a regular receiver. So I don't have to think about which order is it for which device. It's all the same order. Okay, so you can pause the video here and copy over these settings if you like. But once we're done with this, I'm going to go ahead and hit finish. Okay. It's going to kind of load here, and it's going to pop up a save window to save this configuration as a file on your computer. You can see I've already saved mine here, this test one I did the other day. I would recommend you to save this in a safe place where you can find it later. It's kind of a backup in case something goes wrong or you mess something up. You can go back to the defaults for your plane. So I'm just going to hit cancel here because I already saved one of these configurations. Okay, so we'll just hit finish. Okay, it's going to make me save it, I guess. All right, we'll just save it there. Okay. When it says load the new Aura config file you just created, and unsaved changes will be lost. That's fine. We just created the configuration file. We don't care about anything before this because it wasn't set up yet. So we'll say yes. Okay. And now it's going to load some of these default things into the page here. Okay. The main pages we'll be using or tabs that we will be using, I should say, are the setup tab up here. Okay. There's also a control modes tab, a flight modes tab, and a servo port. We might get into some of these other ones, but for the basic setup video we're doing right now, we're not going to get too deep into stuff. Okay, so model setup here. There's the name of our model. We can change it if we want to. Okay, here's the Aura configuration for our plane. We look, it's oriented this way, so we're good. Okay. One thing we want to change, the first thing we want to change actually, okay, is the flight mode setup. Okay. By default, it wants channel 5 or your gear channel to be where you change your flight modes. Since we're using Express LRS, or if you are using Express LRS, you need channel 5 to be your arm switch / throttle cut switch. We can't use channel 5 for our flight modes. We're going to use channel 6. And everybody can use channel 6, regardless of what kind of transmitter you have. But if you have Express LRS, you must use something other than channel 5. Okay, so we'll save channel 6 right there. And every time I change something in the drop downs or wherever I change it here, you'll see this changes saved to Aura has a big X on it down here. That means I've made a change, but I haven't saved it to the actual Aura Lite control board yet. And that's fine. But if you want to save it step by step, you'll go over here and hit Write All to Aura. Okay. And it will give you a pop-up saying, okay, complete. And now you have a green check right here because all of the things you're looking at have already been saved to the Aura. All right. Here's our transmitter setup right here. That's what we set in the default configuration, but we want to check and make sure that's working. So at this point, I'm going to actually grab a battery or my power adapter. Either one would work. I'm going to plug in the plane after I turn my transmitter on. Okay. Your receiver should already be bound to your transmitter. If you haven't done that yet, make sure you flash the new firmware and update your receiver. All that stuff we've already kind of talked about. Okay. So here's my Flight Test Explorer model. All right. I'm going to plug this in here. We should get our receiver boot up and link to the model. Okay, good. It linked. Okay, we have a solid green LED there. My AC booted up, and we have our little signal bars there. Okay, so we can kind of see here the ailerons can move around a little bit, and the tail, I can move that on the sticks and stuff. Basically, we're connected. Our Aura Lite is getting the signals from our receiver because now it has a green LED in there next to that orange one that was there before. So now it's getting valid signals. Okay, so that's good. All right, and then we can go back to the Aura Lite page now. So let's switch back to that. Okay. All right. So here below the transmitter receiver setup, we go down to this input monitor and transmitter verification thing right here. Okay, this big display. This is where you got to really make sure your live data is turned on, or else you won't see anything moving here. What we want to do is make sure when we move our transmitter stick. So right now I'm moving my right stick to the left. Okay. Giving a roll. We see that little ball move to the left. Okay. And if I move my right stick up, it moves up and down and right, left. My rudder moves around. Okay. And if you've already set up the arm switch at this point, you'll need to arm the aircraft. Okay. And then your throttle will also work. Sorry for the noise there. The throttle also works. Okay. And if you have it disarmed, it won't do anything. We won't see the throttle move even if I move my throttle stick. Okay, there's no signal getting through up here. So it's still at negative 120. As you move the sticks around, in addition to the little black ball things moving around, you'll see the values change up here. So like for my ailerons, for example, as I move the stick, negative 120, we go the other way, positive 120. We see those values move around in addition to the other values here. Okay. My channel 5 gear is not really a gear channel, it's an arming channel. So right here, we won't see that on here, but up here in this percentage, we'll see this change as I flick the switch to arm the aircraft. Okay, there we go, negative 117 to positive 117. And we have that as our throttle cut / arm switch. Okay, so if I arm the aircraft, now my throttle works. And if I disarm, it no longer works. Okay. Up here, we did talk about setting up channel 6 as our flight mode channel. Okay, so just like you set up channel 5 to a switch to arm your aircraft and do the throttle cut, you need to pick another switch on your controller, and set it up to channel 6. Okay, zoom out a little bit here. So on my transmitter, I selected this switch up here as my mode switch. Okay, channel 6. So all I did was I went into the model options here, went over to my inputs. Okay, or sorry, not my inputs, mixes. And you see I have channel 5 as SE and channel 6 is SC. Okay, so you want to assign a switch or some kind of control to channel 6 so you can control your flight modes. Mine are up here. Okay, it's just like when we set up the throttle cut switch, exactly the same process. You'll do that, but you'll do for channel 6 instead of channel 5. Okay, let's go back over here. All right, and so if I move my mode switch, channel 6, we can see that number there change as well. Okay, negative 117, 1, and 117, so it's moving between those 3 positions, and that's good. All right, so if that's all working, you're in a pretty good spot. You got it nearly all configured already, and you're really in good shape. Okay, the one other thing we want to check is the control modes. Okay. So let's go in here to control modes. And this is where we can, well, control modes and flight modes, they have 2 different tabs. I don't really entirely understand why they have 2 different tabs here, but this is where we do our beginner mode or intermediate mode or manual mode. Okay, so I have my channel 6 switch set up now, and as I move it, you'll see the control type right here change. Okay, there's my 3 different modes. You see in one position I have 3-axis mode set up, which is kind of a wind helper mode, I guess you'd say. It kind of helps you fly a little bit smoother in extra wind, but it's not going to self-level the airplane for you. Okay. If I go into my middle position, I have 6-axis level assist mode, so this will level the airplane for me. If I let off the sticks, it'll just level out. Okay, if I'm going to crash or something, let off the sticks, it'll level the plane out. The last mode here is a manual mode. As turns basically the FT or light kind of off. It just passes through whatever you're going to fly, so you have full manual control of the airplane. Okay, so if that's working, which it should be if you set it up like we did, then you have those three modes. Okay, and you can see which position of your switch controls which mode. If you'd like a different position of your switch to control a different mode, you can move these around. So let's say I want this position, physical position of my switch to be 6-axis instead. That's fine. Just move them around and make sure if you make any changes, you hit Right Alt to Aura down here in the bottom right hand corner, and then it'll save all your changes. And that's good. Okay. So let's go back to the dot cam for a minute. So the Aura Lite here is basically has what's called an inertial measurement unit on board. It measures rate of rotation as well as acceleration. That's how it can tell where level is, okay, as it's flat, and it can also help you to not roll your aircraft too fast, to kind of limit you a little bit so you're getting that beginner mode feel if you're worried about flying the plane. And as you progress, you can go from the beginner mode to intermediate, and then go to full manual mode and fly the plane manually. Okay, so let's kind of now I wanted these little aileron servos here so we kind of show you if I'm in 6-axis mode and I tip the Aura Lite, okay, we can see those servos moving a little bit. Hopefully you can see that. Try to see if we can do this a better way. There we go. You can kind of see them wiggling back and forth. Okay, so the Aura Lite is detecting that the plane has been pushed over, but I'm not actually moving my stick over, and so it says, hey, that's not what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be flying nice and level. So I'm going to correct for that by moving the ailerons the other way and leveling out the plane. Okay. So that's one thing that the Aura Lite does. The same thing will happen on the tail. I can't show you the tail very well right here on screen. I could try, but it's going to be hard to see. Okay, so if I were to tip the Aura Lite forward and back, it would move the elevator and level out the plane in the 6-axis level assist mode. Okay, if I go into manual mode, right, and I tip the Aura Lite, nothing happens to the servos because I'm in manual mode. It's not going to help me at all. Okay, it's not going to assist me at all, right? And so that's, in a general sense, how to get the Aura Lite set up and working. Okay, there's some other checks we'll want to do as far as getting the directions correct and making sure that the plane is correcting in the right direction. If that makes sense. I'll probably have to show this to you guys in class. I don't have a good way to show that in the video, unless I think of another way to show you in the video, just because I don't have a camera that's set up in that manner. Maybe we'll try to get a different camera so I can show you that kind of more in 3D. But once you've got all your settings dialed in there on the Aura Lite tool, let's go back to that. You have it all set up. It's working how you want it to work, okay? Again, Right Alt to Aura, and that'll save all the settings to your Aura Lite, so it's ready to go to fly your plane. I would also recommend going up here to File and saying Save Aura Config File As. We saved it when we started, but let's save it again with all of our settings we've updated. We can call it something else. Say, FT Explorer ready to fly configuration, and save that configuration so you have a backup. Okay. I think that should about cover the initial setup of the Aura Lite. One other thing you can look at if you want to is the servo ports here. If you forget which plug is supposed to be which thing, up here we have S1, and it shows us that that's the aileron right now. It's supposed to be the aileron output type. Okay, so if you wanted to change these outputs to something else, or you set them up wrong and you just want to change them without having to make a whole new configuration, you can just alter them here and say, oh, actually I want S1 to be elevator, for example, and I would then write that to my Aura Lite. Okay, so that's where you configure that after the fact if you don't want to go back and do a whole new config file wizard like this. Okay. Hopefully this helps you get started with the Aura Lite. Again, we'll talk about it more in class. I'll probably do some of this live in class, especially the pieces that are a little bit bigger, kind of require you to be able to see the plane better than we have been able to on the dot cam. But let me know if you have any questions, and I think this will be really fun as you guys are able to get those more advanced features working on your Aura Lite. It also has a cool feature called Launch Assist, helps you launch the plane, which is really nice because takeoff can be pretty tricky sometimes. All right. Okay. Well, thanks for sticking with me, and good luck with your Aura Lite.